Hi, I'm Hank, and my life partner Stella is a guide with the Enneagram Prison Project.
Hi, my name is Clay, and this is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast. In this episode, I sit down for a conversation with Stella, who is among our newest EPP guides. Finally, after a pandemic and a couple years worth of waiting and interrupted classes, and well, you know the drill by now, I was fortunate enough to be there for Stella's in-custody apprenticeship at a prison in Southern California a month or so ago, and this conversation happens after day 2 of a 4-day compressed schedule that we did there in San Diego. And also, you'll hear a few times throughout the podcast, we are joined by our friend Laura, who has been on the podcast before, a couple times actually, I think. And she really doesn't say a whole lot. She pipes in a few times with some commentary, and also she shares with us her lovely laugh a time or two. But mostly we'll be hearing from Stella and her journey, or at least the first half of her journey in her apprenticeship, and then a few other things along the way. Before we get to that, I'd like to take a second real quick to ask you to leave us a rating in the podcast app wherever you're listening to this, whether it's Spotify or Apple or Google Podcast or really anywhere else that you're listening to the podcast. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to know what you think. We're glad you're here. Thanks for listening. This is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast.
I'm comfortable out here. I think it's quite nice. We're sitting under a sky. The birds are a little more quiet, but It's pleasant. We've got a breeze. Sweet.
And this is where we're at an Airbnb in San Diego. I don't know if it's south or east or west or
Spring Valley.
Spring Valley. Yeah. Is that a city or is that a part of San Diego?
It's a town. It's a town just on the outskirts of San Diego.
And every morning, or you've been here all week actually, yeah?
I have.
What has the week been like for you? Like just here at the Airbnb? I know you've had your morning routine and, you know, the birds and the walks and all that stuff. What's that been like?
Actually, it's been quite lovely. When I first arrived, I was a little, where am I? But this Airbnb's it's a little on the top of a little hill in this town, in this village, I guess I'll call it, since I'm more urban. And at first I was like, what's around here? But I found my way around and I got to meet some neighbors. And I like to share the story of my first walk, where when I walked to the supermarket, I saw someone in their garden and I told them they had beautiful flowers. And they offered to create a bouquet for me. And I said, oh, no, but I'm off to the supermarket. I've got shopping to do. Mm-hmm. And he said, don't worry, I'm going to have one for you and it'll be waiting for you on the fence. And when I walked back, I had the most beautiful bouquet, 2 of them with lemons that I've been enjoying.
And they've been here in the house all week, yeah?
Yeah, you've enjoyed them too.
Yeah, I remember it was Jeff, right?
Yes,
Am I
Jeff,
close? Yeah, shout out to Jeff. Thanks. Which way is he?
Jeff is down that way, down the street.
Okay.
Bonita Lane, I think.
So do we know the house number?
I was thinking of giving him a card, but then I thought, I don't know.
We'll send him where he can find this podcast and he can just hear it. So thank you, Jeff. And we're on the back patio, and this is not the first back patio podcast we've done. I actually did one we were just talking about with Laura, but that was it's actually more like an extension of the kitchen that just went out and was technically outdoors. But this, there's an airplane flying over that I'm assuming listeners will be able to hear. There will be birds. There will be wind. Who knows? But I thought this would be a fun place to sit. And we are the first guests in this Airbnb. And
we're the inaugural guests.
Yeah, the inaugural guest. I can't say why. I don't want to go into the story. I love that you said that instead of first annual. I think we already talked about that this week. But anyhow, so we are here in Spring Valley, a.k.a. San Diego-ish. But we're here for day 1 and day 2 of a compressed schedule that we're doing here at the prison in Southern California where we program. Tell us who you are, anything you think is relevant, whether it's your type or where you're from or whatever you want to share with the listener. And then also tell us a little bit about why we're in San Diego.
Okay. So I'm Stella and I work with a type 7. And so I'm actually from the East Coast, from New Jersey. And I'm here in San Diego as part of my in-person apprenticeship in custody, and with Laura and Clay, who are here with me. And I'm going to say it's been a very special week in many ways. And it's really allowed me, you alluded initially, what do I do here? And part of it in the mornings is I actually join the birds outside to just find my presence. Because, I sort of, I guess, challenged myself to go, oh, am I ready? Right? Am I ready? And having the thought to go, readiness is being present and really doing that. And I think for me, the week's been, I can't describe it. I'm at a loss for words, but I'm in awe of the human spirit.
So you mentioned, well, let me ask you this. How often, how many times is this your first time in? Whatever the question that works here, like you mentioned, are you ready for this? Or actually I didn't catch the exact phrase that you used, but was there any doubt with you, or what is that?
Yeah. And thanks for asking it that way, Clay, because I don't know that I'd say there's a big doubt. That's sort of not the right word, but part of it is being involved in EPP. And I'm someone who, knowing myself, as I do my own work, there's such a recognition of the importance for me to truly feel that I am able to connect with all of who I am. And at the same time, feel that that is a safe place for me and for others. And so while doing 9P1K or Path to Freedom, also doing virtual in custody, and all of that action, now that I think about it, was virtual. And so it's really different, and building wonderful relationships on Zoom. And I think the nervous was as I've never been in a prison. So that is a first for me. And to be in person, right? So that is different.
In the room.
In the room. Yeah, in the room. To also have the sense that it's a compressed. And so even in the past, I'd go, okay, I'm doing 3 hours and now I can spend some time and prepare for my next. So the ability to be in flow, to be present, to know. And I went back and forth. Do I know the content? Am I going to be able to hold myself? Right? Or am I going to connect? And so those were questions I had. And when I walked in the room, many of them dissipated. And the reason they dissipated was just the power of being with each other. And I say with people, with us, I include myself, and really recognizing that there is no separation when we are doing our work internally.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way that sounds. That feels right. So I wish I had my microphones when we were walking like through the yard that first day, because I love, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, I love being part of someone's first time going in. I think it's like so cool. And I mean, there's part of it where I like to be like the tour guide, where I probably know the answers if you have questions, like there's that. But then I also just like to see the experience as it unfolds. And I don't know if I said this yet, but we're talking at the conclusion of day 2. So we've already been inside for a couple days. It's Friday evening. We were in on Thursday and Friday. So your first time in was like 36 hours ago, or what? Pretty close to that. As I look at, like 35 hours ago. I want to get like exact, and it feels like it was a lifetime ago for me, at least. I don't know if it does for you, but I'm curious if you're willing to describe. So the process is we go up to the gate, we go through the staff entrance, we give them our license, we sign a piece of paper, and then they open the door. Can you describe for somebody who's never experienced that? What is it like just walking through that first door to the room where we program?
Yeah. One thing that Laura and Clay, both of you, I said, what should I bring? Right. It was like, bring your ID. So bring who you are to get in and to get out. Like, okay. So it's not even just arriving, it's preparing to arrive. And thinking that the preparation also was a clearance 2 months ago. And so even filling out 32 pages, I think it was, of being seen and being looked at, and my privacy being checked to see whether or not I could even go in. And I say that in a way that was like, wow, just
Did it feel intrusive? Like, is that?
It did feel a little intrusive. I mean, not by EPP, but I'm like, do I really want them to have all this information on me?
Yeah, Social Security,
exactly,
all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of like, no, but I really want to do this work and I'm trusting the system, right? So I'm going to trust that. And so I start there. And so arriving though physically is for me the how can I put it? All the glass, all the separation, right? So coming in to notice that we're separate and everyone inside is somewhat separate. And so it starts in the very beginning with the plexiglass, with the book to sign. And then as we go in, once we're cleared, and something I hadn't really thought about, and part of it is I'm with the two of you. So I have two people I know and I trust. What I cannot imagine is if I wasn't with you and I was alone, because a gate opens and I walk in and another gate closes behind me till another gate opens. And again, I'm with people I trust. So I also want to acknowledge that what does that feel like if I'm not? And if I'm not coming out, right? I knew we were coming out, and that's a difference, right? And so I would say the starkness, the metal, the aspect of it's a cage and we need to make sure you don't run out or in till we let you, right? And then walking in, through the next level and just continuing to show our ID. And then going through the yard. And in this yard, where we were in particular, it felt maybe what I think maybe less dark, but it was stark, right? But there, certainly was more murals or maybe some gardens, but also to see that there's rules here of how individuals work together, just looking at the little pebbles that you pointed out to me.
Yeah, describe that.
Yeah, walking and there's these pebbles with, I think, little names, or I didn't like, and they're lined up in a row, different pebbles, and they're like in lines. And Clay says to me, do you know what that is? And I'm thinking of, I have no idea what it is. It's somebody's piece of artwork. And later it's the rules of how and who's saving a place in line for how they're going to enter to receive, I guess it's food, or I don't know if it's,
They call it canteen out here, or commissary or whatever.
Okay.
Basically, it's basically like aftermarket food they can buy in addition to what they get already. So you can like put money on somebody's books. I can order some ramen noodle soups and some stamps, and you go wait in line until they open. But people don't want to stand in line. So they put a rock on top of a little piece of paper. And it's like 3 rows of 20 of these little bitty rocks that are like smaller than what you'd skip across a pond.
Oh, really tiny. Really. Yeah. And then I'm thinking, wow, so this is self-organizing and self-respecting of how we're going to live here together with our rules. And so that again struck me of again, self-organizing and how, I think, 900 individuals here are figuring out how are we going to live together? Right. And how are we going to live together? Because there's also, of course, the correctional officers, and there's also other individuals, but there's also the how are we? Mm-hmm. So that struck me.
Do you have any? Do you recall anything with any particular interactions with any of the staff, whether it be the mental health staff or the COs or anything like that stuck out to you one way or the other?
Well, I think for some of the COs, and again, because I think we were in the mental health side of it, I do believe that the COs were actually seemed to be very accommodating and quite friendly, and actually, said, did you have a good program, at the end of the day, or, made sure that we were able to go have our lunch. So I did feel support, to be honest. And that was probably on day one. And that was certainly in the facility where we were programming. And that was more my direct interaction, right? I think on day 2, no, still part of, wait, what day are we on?
This is where you realize how...
Wait a minute. When was that?
It's all one long-ass day. Yeah, it's this.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right, so the same day 1. It feels like a week ago.
Day 1B.
Day 1B was the, oh gosh, what's it called? The food sale What,
Yeah.
food sale?
Yeah. Food sale, right? Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So I had no idea what that was.
This is even bigger than the canteen or commissary. This is like an maybe once a year, maybe twice a year event.
Yeah. So in the middle of our programming, we learned that there's this food sale that individuals have purchased food months in advance and I guess put on their books and paid for it. And people are really looking forward to going to the trucks that are arriving. Chickens, pizzas, and very special.
Like nice, what we would consider probably nice food, like nice roasted chicken, not just ramen noodle soups, like $15 full chickens.
Yeah. So we knew in the programming, and Laura and Clay, and Laura especially was like, okay, we know you don't want to miss this. And so what time is it going to be? So I think that was a more challenging, I'm going to say, interaction. And I probably want to see Laura's input on some of that because she had more of that direct.
Yeah.
But that really got a bit chaotic because we could feel the energy and wanted to respect that this is a unique once a year.
Yeah.
And it's food and it's special.
It's Christmassy vibes. Like you don't want to tell a kid you can't go to the Christmas tree. You have school. Like it was kind of like that. So the participants in class, we knew they were going to, we knew they were not going to pick us over food sale.
Exactly. And we didn't know when the trucks were coming, how long the lines would be. So this could be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or what time.
A lot of unknowns.
Yeah. So
mostly
that to
unknowns,
me,
actually.
it was.
Yeah.
So that, yeah.
So going back to, feel free to jump in, Laura, at any point. Going back to the beginning of class. So we get through the Sally Port on the front end. Actually, there's two of them. We go across the yard. We see the rocks. We have that conversation. There's a few murals. You mentioned a few gardens and such. And then we get to the mental health building. We go in, we set up the class, and then folks start filing in. Do you remember anything from that experience as we started welcoming participants into the class? How long? I'll ask you this. Also, how long did it take for you to kind of let go of, I'm in prison right now? Or did that even happen?
Oh, I felt I let go of it and forgot it when the participants started coming in. Now, not because, of course, the clothing is reminding me that we're there, right, in terms of a color, but the conversations, the engagement, the room is more neutral. So I'm not feeling that vibe as much. And it really goes into when we're seeing one another. Mm-hmm. I'm actually not even seeing what you're wearing anymore, right? We're seeing each other's eyes, hearts. We're having conversations that are meaningful. We're people, right? And we're people recognizing that we may have different pain and that we're here together on a shared mission. And so what I was really, as individuals came in, just shaking a hand and getting a thank you for being there and sensing a gratefulness. And of course, that comes from EPP's prior programming and individuals who were there before, right? So that's a belief, right, in a connection. And I would say, I think really having individuals share and help teach, right? I think we had 8 individuals that had taken the course before. And so the willingness to share what they are learning internally, but also to help each other along. You just kind of forgot where I was, to be honest. But then there are reminders. Mm-hmm. I'm not naive.
Right.
But in the conversation, it's sort of, forgot.
I don't know if I've ever asked this before, but I'm curious because you mentioned reminders. There's the obvious one, like the clothes. Like we're also in a concrete box, the hard floor and the hard walls, and there's the visual stuff like immediately in the room. But what are some other reminders of where we are outside of that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the restrictions on us that we can't go outside, right? I mean, I guess Laura can with the brown card, but not encouraged to.
Right.
So we're a bit imprisoned in that building. I mean, technically we're not, but we are not really to leave.
Yeah.
To go, even to use the bathroom, we do need to talk to a guard to get a key, to go into a separate area, to have lunch. So there's a separateness, right? Walking out of the room, there are usually, I think anytime there's generally 3 correctional officers there. Mm-hmm. Again, friendly, approachable, and they're there.
And clearly equipped for battle should the need arise.
I was just going to say that. Just noticing. No, you're right. Yeah. Like noticing everything on their belt. The idea that they had the cameras on their. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm losing that in my. But
And they got the body cams on
body cams,
right on their chest. Either it's clipped to their pocket or it's in their buttons.
Yeah, and then the batons that they've got, and it looks like they might even have some spray. I mean, I didn't look at everything that was there, but you're right, ready for that. And also, I guess I didn't mention in the second entrance, while we're going in with our card and our books, others are picking up keys or picking up equipment or picking up their batons and their belts and their
gear.
Their gear. Yeah. So that also was, and you could just hear it and just see, as they put that on, they're like going in for battle.
Yeah. The keys jangling and all the other noises that I don't like about prison. They're all there too. The keys are they're a reminder that you can't go anywhere unless I let you.
Yeah.
Even if it's to go to the restroom.
Right.
And there's no issue. They're super cool. The COs there are very accommodating. They're extremely accommodating, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still there's a certain, hey, can we go to the restroom? Which is not my favorite, but also totally worth it. It's a very, very, very small price to pay to get to go in and program. Are you sitting on anything? Okay. I can't tell.
I know. I'm so rarely this quiet.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I'm about to reach over and check your pulse just to make sure.
Are you cold?
No, I'm just savoring. I don't know. For me, it's I get so excited when someone gets to come in for the first time and it goes so well. And I know Stella has been on this journey for a few years. And so just watching her and hearing it, it's just, my heart is bursting. And so my quietness is just, I want to soak it all in.
Well, feel free.
Yeah.
So the one more thing I want to ask you about, just the setting in general, and then we can move on to talking about the class. I think everybody has expectations when they're going into prison, especially for the first time. Will it be this? Will I see that? Will whatever. And sometimes they're good, expectations I know these people are going to love me and be nice to me and all that stuff. And then sometimes the expectations might be concern-ish, kind of thing. Did you have expectations going in, or things that you might expect, or however you want to phrase that? And how did that compare to the reality? What are some things that you expected and saw, and then what caught you by surprise, or anything around any of that?
Yeah. And maybe this is coming from my prior to apprentices in custody didn't finish, right, because of COVID, and they were virtual and they were in jails, right? So I was expecting probably a little more chaos, or maybe a little more resistance, and not towards me personally, but sort of and I'm sure that maybe other groups are different.
Occasionally somebody running by on fire.
Did you not see him? Did you not see him when that happened?
There's literally a sign with a guy on fire, so it fits,
Or interruption, the COs coming in and pulling someone out. I would have, I don't know. I didn't know. Now, again, we can get to the food sale, which is another, but that's a different kind of chaos.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure, to be honest. I was open. And I think it was, one of my questions for myself was, and you helped me with this, Clay, was, I've never been in prison. I don't really have family who've been in prison. Will I be credible? Will I be acceptable? Right. And will I be authentic and I don't want to use the word useful, but will I be kind of relevant to their work? That's probably what was coming up for me. And so really, with Laura and your guidance, to really focus on being with me, right? And being with who I am, and being with the work that I'm doing, and being authentic to that. And that was hard. I mean, not that I haven't been doing my work, but to really sit with that and say, whoa, I'm going to be going in and I'm going to be coming out. And I'm really, privileged in that regard. And so, also wanting to be in touch, but also to be there to create the environment to make it safe that we can all get in touch with one another or ourselves. And so that was in my mind, and I wasn't sure. But I did have more of my focus on readiness for, it's interesting, the wholeness of it, right? So that was there. And what I experienced was and again, we've got, I think, 14 individuals. And so everyone's in a different place in their journey. Overall, the level of reflection, the level of just dropping in. It's interesting because I guess now that I'm reflecting back, it means I can't hide either, right? So if I'm going to stand up there and I'm going to hide or think it's not safe to be me, and not safe because of others, but because of me, then it's not a place for me to be, right? And so noticing and really being so present to go, yeah, so this is a place where I can be who I am authentically, vulnerably, and hold the space for others to do that work. Because I am in a different place as a guide, right? And I think that's an important balance, that it's not about me. Say, I'm going to share things, but it's not about me. Right. It's really, to me, it's about the space and the conversations and the openness. So I was humbled.
Hey, y'all, it's Clay, and we're going to pause here real quick to share with you a few words of appreciation for our friend, Dana Vitorelo. There are a lot of people who want to share some appreciation, so I'm actually going to keep this intro very short. Dana is a guide for EPP. She's also on faculty. She plays a massive role in the curriculum, yada, 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 all that good stuff. It's all true, and I want to get straight to the appreciation. What I appreciate about Dana, and this is possibly more true for her than any other friend that I have, is I know that I can count on Dana when I have something to share that's important to me, something I'm hurting about, or something I'm sad about, or something I'm happy about. It could be a good thing too. But I know that I'm going to be heard, and I know that what is true for me will be safe to say. And I also know that if it's bullshit, I'm going to hear that. I'm going to hear, Clay, yeah, I don't know about that. Or some other variation of that's bullshit. And so to me, the combination of those two things is just priceless. I can barely put it into words. That's my best attempt at doing so. I appreciate Dana. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
I believe in divine intervention. And I also believe that's how and why Dana came into my life. She not only has impeccable credentials as a mental health professional, her uncanny ability to gain the trust of others, especially those of us that are, skeptical or even cynical, is really quite extraordinary. She is empathetic and extremely relatable. Simply put, she's a rock star. Dana has made a huge impact on my life. And as I've gotten to know others in this beautiful community, I've come to realize that I'm just one of many, many folks that appreciate her in more ways than words could ever describe. She is my guiding light, my mentor, my teacher, my shoulder to cry on, and a one-of-a-kind friend that truly gets me like none other. She lovingly takes me down paths that are difficult, even impossible to navigate on my own. She holds me accountable, holds space for me, and encourages me when I think and even believe in my soul that I just can't do it. I proudly proclaim we are top 6 soul sisters. I'm not one to throw the LOVE word around casually, but I can say from the depths of my being, I love and appreciate Dana more than I could possibly share in mere words. EPP is fortunate to have her in this very compassionate and caring community.
Oh, where to start with Dana? I will say watching her change in the time that I've known her and deepen and shift and soften has been has had such an impact on my life. And probably the biggest thing that I love every bit of that woman. I think Dana is amazing, and I can see how much she has made the project possible. And personally, the way she can stand in her truth and see things and speak to them and stay inside of herself. Oh my gosh. She has grown me in that way, probably without knowing it, but she's an absolute inspiration. And I think one of the biggest reasons the project stays pure, stays what I think it was intended to be. So Dana, love you to pieces. So grateful for you and love doing this work together.
I am delighted to share my appreciation of Dana, not only as a colleague at EPP in guiding and on faculty, but as a bestie of mine in life. Dana is wise, kind. She really keeps it real. And we often laugh really, really hard when sharing our human journey together. And I treasure that about you, Dana. And within EPP, she is our number one OG guide. She was around in the original TTP teacher training before GTP ever even existed. And that's a big deal because I'm talking thousands of hours in service to EPP. I appreciate Dana's ferociously competent mind, her tender heart for the work, and I appreciate her embodiment of a social savvy that has taught me so much about the practical and the inclusive we mind of type 6 that she easily and skillfully includes, always, and especially the ambassadors in any spaces and places that we can. I appreciate her integrity around EPP's curriculum, the guidebook and the workbook. She keeps that relevant and in flow, and having a rationale around the scaffolding of that work. And I also appreciate Dana's ability to wordsmith late into the night to get things just right so that the experience of the guides or participants using something that's being documented as being relevant. She is a word wizard, I would say, and an expert of the Enneagram, in my estimation anyway. And I appreciate her as a guide. She knows how to engage someone's mind, set their heart on fire, and she models doing the work together through her honest self-disclosure and competency and all that she does. She's taught me so much about the awakeness of a type 6. She doesn't jack around. If her bullshit detector is going off, she will solidly back up what she's saying. She'll have evidence-based something to reflect back to. And she just has a sturdiness within herself that I admire. And finally, I really appreciate that when Dana reads something in Slack, she'll use the emoji of a purple heart quite often. And I always smile inside because the purple heart to me is a symbol of distinction, of honor in service above and beyond. And Dana, that is the gift that you have given all of us with having yourself be part of EPP for all of the years. I feel blessed to know you. Sending you a big word hug from Minnesota.
Dana Vitorelo, it just brings a smile to my face to even say her name. What an amazing human. I'm so happy that she's on the planet. It's just one of those people that you're like, God, I'm so glad that this person exists, because you know that they're making a difference and doing their own work. When I think of Dana, the word that comes to mind is Dana is just a rock. She's rock solid. Have you ever had the kind of person in your life who has your back, even if they disagree with you, and is just loyal and shows up and makes space for all of your experience as well as their own? That's Dana. I just think it's a priceless gift and talent that she has to really offer that positive regard and offer a space at the table for everyone. I've heard her in the past give feedback to others about them being neutral, which I think is a really interesting thing to notice about someone. I really believe when it comes to feedback that if you can spot it, you've got it. And so I would just say about Dana that she's a very neutral person, which is funny because we all know Dana's very fiery also, and has her opinions and her preferences and everything. But even with that, she always makes space for others to have their experience. And I think she's very motivated to understand all sides and not be blind because she's so fixated on her way of looking at things. And it's something I really appreciate and actually admire, I would say, admire in Dana. I could go on and on about, how she shows up in all the different roles around EPP, which there are many, but I'll just say that Dana is just a phenomenal human and friend, and I just feel so lucky to know her and to be influenced by her example. And yeah, love you, Dana.
Well, Dana goes back a long time in this project, and I remember meeting her way back in the beginning, and and she was just on her starting her journey in Vallombrosa, and I have so much love and respect for her, and kind of how I've gotten to know her and how I've kind of witnessed her be this light and transform into this light, what I feel like is a transformation. And I feel like she's done it with just an unbelievable amount of grace and gumption. I also there's so many things that where we get to have some little bit of overlap here and there, and I always feel like I know she is considering so many pieces of this and coming out with something that is really not just heartfelt and something that Susan just mentioned a second ago of authentic and in integrity, but also this piece around like, and it's hard for me to put into words. I think it has a little bit to do with maybe my sixth wing. I just trust it. And so I feel this solidity to her and to the way in which she has been in support of the project and actually been in support of herself.
A long time ago, a spiritual guide told me about EPP, keep it pure. And I feel like there are a few people inside of the project who have absolutely been in service of that, and Dana's one of them. Because whenever there's been something that's not quite right, or I'm not sure, or is difficult, Dana is there. And she is there for the hard conversation. She's totally there to add some laughter and some, not just laughter, I'm trying not to make this a total type 6 stereotype, but to keep it really real. And I have reached out to her in so many places where I was up against myself, and I knew I could just really trust that she would not avoid the truth with me. And in order for this project to be pure, we all have to be real with ourselves. And that's who she is in every way to me.
My very good friend for a long time now, whose loyalty and friendship I really appreciate. And her teaching capacity and delivery is unmatched. Try to follow that act. She's really good. And she's also very loving. She's got a big heart, and it propels what she does. I think she's been a big part of the formation of EPP. Yeah, I appreciate Dana a lot, and I love her a lot.
So you mentioned earlier about there's a connection here, and I don't know if this was intentional or whatever, but it's a nice metaphor of what do you need? You need your ID. You need this thing to say who you are so you can get in and get out. And then also when you're in there, what do you need? I mean, the curriculum's nice. It's all good. It's fun to be able to actually speak, intelligently to what we're trying to teach, right? So I get that, but it's not a priority. It's who are you? Like you're literally bringing your identity, or to say it better, you're bringing your presence, because if you're not there, who is, right? And are they really going to hear you? It's so funny to hear you. I'm paraphrasing what you said a moment ago, but basically about this wonder of, do I have, like street cred or, credibility, or are they going to listen to me or whatever? I remember we were on a Zoom call, last week maybe? And I was so the opposite of concerned about you. And I even spoke to how excited I was to know, because you spoke up in the Zoom call and shared an opinion. And so after that, I just had this moment. I'm so glad this is who's going in with us next week, because this is real, this is legit, and this is who they need. And so I was fully confident and had no doubts, and I was fully ready to go to bat for you. And sometimes it's a tough sell. Like sometimes, for whatever reason, folks, participants on the inside, they might not always immediately take to you. And I was fully ready to just go, hey, by the way, like she's with us. She's one of us. And that alone, a lot of times, is enough. And I never had to do that. It was pretty instant. And I'm curious actually, Laura, from how you saw things. It was pretty cool to see they immediately accepted you and thanked you for being there, and cool, what you got for us kind of thing. And immediately accepted you into the fold.
Yeah, it was immediate. And for me, it was, I watched you as folks started to trickle into the room, and you immediately, not in the least bit overbearing, in a very natural way, made connection with them, kind of went over. People trickle in. It's not a college classroom or a high school classroom. The bell goes off, people are in their seat. Doesn't work that way. People are trickling in, and Stella is immediately, you're just in conversation, getting to know them, and so present. And that was, honestly, that moment for me watching it was like, yes, like little mini, like, oh, just so excited, because it says so much to me with, you're here to just connect with folks, stay connected to yourself. And I didn't have doubts before, but in that moment, I was like, this is going to kick ass this week. These 2 days that feel like a week. But
this month packed into 12 hours.
Yes.
So I'm curious, Stella, did you experience that the way that Laura just described, or the way that I'm saying it, where, you're immediately cool. You're in the.
Yeah, I and it felt very natural. Like I wasn't thinking, oh, I better do this. There wasn't any of performativeness in it, right? It wasn't like, I'm the host at the door shaking hands. It wasn't like that.
Oh, they snipped that shit out a mile away. Yeah.
It wasn't.
Thank you for not trying that at all.
So I didn't do that. I let, as folks came in, they wandered past me, some of them, or, so I wasn't like creating a wedding line.
Yeah.
And it just felt right as I made eye contact to go up and say, hey, hi, I'm Stella, I'm with EPP, and shake hands. And so it was just eye to eye contact, and folks were like, great. And then they grab their book and go take a seat. So, and part of it was, let's connect. I'm strange to the group, and I forgot it's also day one. I wasn't realizing it's day one. Like I'm the stranger, right? I'm dropping in, especially when you go, she's from New Jersey. Her name is Stella.
The guy running by on fire. She's strange. Oh yeah, you did get a Stella joke, by the way. Oh, that was. It's not his real name, so I can
think
say
that was
barbecue. Yes, like of all people, dude. Like we brag about him so much about not talking unless he has something good to say, and then he likes them. You hear that joke everywhere, I'm sure, right?
It depends on the age.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes it's Stella got her grooves.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But no, and I think and I guess for me it was I'm here, and we're going to do some cool work together. I don't know where it's going. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. So let's kind of at least connect initially, because we're going to be in the same boat for 2 days. Mm-hmm. So I'd like you to kind of know that I'm here with you and give me a hand.
Yeah, and they clearly got that immediately. So tell me about the cool work. I mean, we're in class, where everybody's settled down. We get started. What was it like? What was it like? Guiding in prison for the first time.
It's true, because I'm feeling like it's been a month that we've been here, and it's only 2 days. And so I think there's flows. There's different flows in it. I would say the times that I found I could trust myself and not get nervous, and the funniest thing was, I took my guidebook and I was nervous I was going to forget something, so I put all these Post-its on my guidebook. And then I realized the person to my left was reading my Post-its.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, this is so uncool, Stella. So I took my Post-its off and said, all right, I'm going to fly. And then
And by the way, just to say, like, we sit in a circle and we kind of spread out so that the three of us aren't sitting together. So you're sitting in between two participants.
Correct.
And the one to your left, I think it was to your left, right?
It was to my left,
Yeah,
yes.
it was a 5. And he's
a 5.
Yeah.
He's into my Post-its.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, this is not going to be cool. So I didn't want to hide them from him. So I just said, I'm going to take them off.
Yeah.
So I took them off.
What's that about, though? Like, I'm actually curious. I don't know if we ever got to the bottom of that. Like, what's so bad about him seeing your Post-it notes?
Well, then I feel it wouldn't feel like, I don't know, it wouldn't feel I'm embodying it. I'd be reading it. There was something, and it was so interesting because when I took them off, I thought, screw this. Everyone in here knows some of this material.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to engage. And so it was beautiful to actually even do something, that I hadn't done before, was to engage folks in what's it like to be living the vision, the mission of EPP, and having 8 individuals who've done it and hearing their own work. And then having you, Clay, share in the history. And then inviting individuals around that they're part of the history. So I think for me, what it was if we are a community together, I can release that I don't need to know the what. I do need to know there are things that I want to share that are important to share, especially in the beginning of day one, but how to link it back. So for me, it's being present to weave. Why are we here? Like really why we're here, right? And things like the principles of safety. And so I don't know how to describe it. It was like being in a big boat together and we were all rowing,
mm-hmm.
in different paces, but we were a container.
I think you've given me a new way to say what I've been saying for years, and that the who is always bigger than the what. And I say, I've said it a bazillion other ways. We're like, connection is always going to be bigger than the content, or who you are is bigger than better or more important than what you know, and stuff like that. I think I'm just going to start abbreviating that and saying the who is always bigger than the what, and the what's important, by the way. Like, we're definitely going to talk about this, and it's going to be very important, but it'll never be more important than the who.
Yeah. And part of that is also, we're not in EPP and in self-discovery work. It's not learn this so you can be this.
Yeah.
That's very different. Or learn this so you can take a test on it.
Yeah.
The content. Is this, and I love the idea of it's a map to navigate your inner terrain, but also that inner terrain has so many levels. And so individuals beginning to say, that's not who I am. Who I am is inside me. But this is sort of a compass or something that should I decide to really work with it, and not work with it alone, but work with it in group, work with it with others, that I'm going to learn more about who I am. And someone today even said, getting in touch with my authentic self. What a beautiful thing. And seeing the authentic self in other people. And he really was talking about seeing his own light and the light of others.
I have to admit, Laura, I'm a little uncomfortable with you being so quiet, and I'm cool.
know.
It's odd, and keep practicing if you feel.
You can just stop there. Keep practicing it. Keep it up. Keep quiet. Yes, sir.
It's been a long 48 hours. I think this is the most we've joked with each other in one of these trips. I don't know. I think it's fun I think it's important to keep things lighthearted and not too serious. But there's like no shortage of big things to talk about. By the way, we're nowhere. We're just getting started, I feel like. But I do want to check just because it has been, a little over half an hour. Are we good? Are we good to go longer?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool.
Are you good?
Good practice for me to be quiet. Yep.
Good practice.
I'm all over it.
I've been saying I'm gonna eat that one for a while.
Probably.
Just keep practicing. It sounded funny, and then when I said it stopped being funny. It was just rude. But then you laughed. So
I didn't. Yeah. I am being quiet, but I'm just enjoying. It's funny. This is Stella's first time in. This is my first time in with Stella. So I'm just savoring all of it because Stella and I we know each other pre-EPP.
Yeah.
She's someone I really wanted to come along. And she's been around for a few years, and like it's just
you're the reason
beautiful.
she got connected with EPP, right? That's your spider bite. That's your Stella's spider bite.
Yeah. So it's beautiful to see this, and I'm just soaking it in.
Well, can we talk about how y'all met? Or is that on the table?
We both we met in the same coaching program, New Ventures West, which I know you've had mentioned on the podcast before. I think because there's a lot of us.
Yep.
We just happened to sign up for the program at the same time. So we spent an entire year together doing work.
I think that was more than just a 4-letter syllable. So I must, as we say, double click.
Well, I will say for me, it was my first deep dive into real inner work. I had, I think, been dancing around it or curious, but I had never jumped in that way. So for me, that whole experience was life-changing. And it really, I mean, that's where I met EPP. Susan came to the weekend that we did our certification, and that was my first. I had heard her on a podcast with the founder of the school, and that place opened me up. How do I say this? That experience, that year, and the year Stella was part of, like the entire cohort, my entire experience, it cracked my heart open in a way that I didn't even know was possible. Scared the shit out of me. But it was life-changing, and which then, of course, it's just the way it is. You can see in reverse the journey. Like, of course, my heart cracked open, and then there was EPP, and it just all lined up. But to have that experience and then to share it with someone like Stella, who I absolutely admire and think is like so cool. Like, I from day one, I just was like, she's got cool energy. Like, I just like this woman. And then to be like, hey, do you want to come and check this out? Not knowing where that would lead, might just be checking out what we're up to. And she came in to just eventually just to coach some folks, because that's what we went to school for. And it was like, hey, we're doing this, and do you want to be part of it? Not knowing that years later it was going to turn into this, where she's walking inside of a prison with me, and not just walking inside of a prison with me, kicking ass as a guide. Yeah. Like she is so solid, so present, so in love with Stella that she can be so in love with every man in that room.
Yeah. Yeah. How's that feel to hear?
I was just thinking, lovely, which sounds like it's not enough. It just feels, I'm in appreciation. Yeah. And I think, we come together in life in certain journeys, and we meet each other in certain ways. Look at the two of us here. This is supposed to be lighthearted.
And so that's what you thought. I know better.
To just see a journey of since 2017, right? And I think sometimes when souls meet, right, they find each other again, and there's places that we contribute in the world and we receive in the world, right? And that's, I guess, one thing that for me is so important in this work is it's a mutuality to it. I'm not better. Someone doesn't need my help. We are in mutual growth. And sometimes I am in a position. Like I said this morning, I came out and I could sit out here with the birds. And I really thought about that this morning. And when we left yesterday, day one, I came out and I felt good, but I also felt like I just wanted to cry. And I was like, what's that about? And it wasn't crying for pity. It was just crying like, wow, freedom, like true freedom. And yes, we can get inner freedom. Absolutely. And I can sit out here this morning, have a cup of coffee and listen to birds. And the starkness of going back in day 2 really gave me that sense of, not having that. Not having those choices or those outer choices taken away. And then to see I still have the resilience inside to have inner choices. I mean, that's like, I'm in awe. I think the first day I said my word was awe.
What I'm experiencing just listening to you talk is the folks that we meet on the inside, and there is a genuine connection, and you see these folks. And when I say you, I mean you specifically, I specifically, Laura. We see these folks, and it feels so odd. I'm not speaking for anybody else but me right here, but it feels so odd to think that like we're in this room doing this work together. We're all coming to the similar realizations and having the same conversations. And I get to sleep in this big, fluffy bed tonight.
Yeah.
And I totally understand how the law works and how the courts work. And so I'm not saying that I'm not saying we should just open the gates and let everybody out, but it doesn't always feel right. And there for me, there's often a sense of, not guilt, but just like, what a fucking bummer that that they should not be there. Like I get that their crime was what it was. I get that they got their sentence, but like stop punishing them. Like they're done being punished. Like let them be humans and live, and we'll all be better for it. It's not about looking out for this one dude who I just happen to like. It's not that. It's that these folks, these people in this room are ready for something different, and the world needs it, but they don't open the gates for them. They only let us out. And it's kind of a bummer. I say it very lightly. It's actually very, very, very much a bummer. Doesn't feel right. So that's how I experience a lot of that. It doesn't feel right. And the sentences that some of the folks have is just like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? What the hell? For what?
Yeah.
And it's easy to get angry over that. Actually, I have to watch it because I can. It's just not cool, and I don't understand it. So I don't even know where to go with it from there. That's hearing you talk through that. That's kind of what's on my it's on my heart at the moment.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Clay, it's not fair. It doesn't feel just, and like you said, I don't know all the history, and at the same time, there's we get the pre-work that says how old someone is and how long their sentence is and how long they're going to be there. And right, some are 3 years and some are life without parole. And I'm thinking, and you're in this class looking to unlock an inner understanding of who you are. The courage to do that when I'm not able to run away from the prison physically that I'm in, and I'm going to do this vulnerable work. It's not like I can go, oh, I did this and now I'm going to move. Right? I don't know, to find that, and I call it courage, resilience, vulnerability to say, you're not going to take that away from me. I'm going to free myself on the inside. And to be with that is like unbelievable. Like, So with all of to me, I see all that outer and I can be angry also. And then I'm just in awe of human resilience in a way that says that you won't take away. And we can be part of that, which is, doesn't solve the social structural issues.
Right. And the fact that we can't even give them a hug when we say goodbye at the end of these couple days.
Yeah. And that's hard for me because I'm a touchy-feely person. I do. I said that to Laura. I got to watch myself. I'm like, That's an extra struggle. Did you expect that coming in that might be an issue, or not an issue like that, but like it might be something that would be on your mind? To be more, it wasn't on my mind. Yeah. So to be more cognizant of it and to recognize it. And I really, and again, it was, touching someone on a shoulder, which I didn't think about. And then I was saying I was debriefing it with Laura. I think we'll take this one out.
That'll be a little editing.
This is one of the really important things when you're headed inside. Like, it is really minor. It is minor to touch somebody on the shoulder. And yet, if the wrong person sees it, or the wrong person in class, even a fellow participant sees it, and there's any indication of anything, it could be an issue. Yeah. And so
that can happen without touch.
Yeah, exactly. If there's any favoritism, if there's, those two are really connected. So it's a whole different there needs to be such a heightened awareness of everything that we do. And it's just hard when you first go in. It's still hard. I do it. I think I touched somebody's shoulders today and had to like catch that because I was just in the moment. It made sense to do that, but it's, oh, nope, can't do that here. Yeah. It is for me, not to go back to like the heaviness of it, but it's these folks are so human to me.
Yeah.
So I want to treat them with humanity. And it's not even let me touch them on the shoulder. It's like just natural because we're two humans connecting.
Well, you don't see an inmate.
Not at all.
Right.
I see a human that I'm connecting with deeper than oftentimes I connect with people that aren't incarcerated.
Right.
Not across the board, but just there's such depth and such reverence, like reverence on both sides that it's like, we're in this thing. And then you have to remember, oh, that's right.
You know, you mentioned that about Spanish, and I remembered a really cool moment today when someone asked what a word meant, and you explained it.
Assert.
Yeah, they said, "What does assert mean?" You said, "Oh, assert means like," and you started, and then just went. They're a native Spanish speaker, I suppose.
Yes.
Is that the right way to say that? I don't know.
He grew up in Mexico.
Yeah. So you went like right into Spanish, and some of the words I caught just because I live in Texas and I know some words, but it was so cool to watch you just like go into that and then come right back out of it. And he was like, "Oh yeah, cool." It was so cool. I've never seen that before.
You weren't inside when we did the feedback because you were setting up, and that was like, one of the biggest things I said. Like that was amazing. I just loved that moment.
It was so cool. And I don't know, maybe to you it's not that big of a deal because you just speak. I only speak one language really, so it's just neat to just watch that happen and just so without pause or anything else and just bam, and that worked, and you just went right back to English. It was like, how cool is that? It was so cool. That's not a big deal to you or what? I don't know.
I felt it was. I just felt I couldn't explain it in English because that wasn't really the question. I mean, I recognized that it really was a language question, and that was cool, right? And it was also an opportunity that because of the question around assertiveness, I could also use my body to demonstrate it as I spoke in Spanish what it would look like and describe it. And immediately he just went, "Oh yeah, got it,
100%, yeah,
that's it."
That was so cool. I love that, and I think at some point yesterday I might have brought up. By the way, if this thing happens like that, and I totally,
did?
But that's not why it happened. But I remember thinking in the moment when I said that, I was like, it would be so cool to see this like thing happen, and then it was like even cooler than I expected it to be. So I don't know. Maybe I'm easy to please. I just thought it was really
I'll take it.
Really
it's cool.
It was pretty fucking cool.
It was.
It was cool because, well, first of all, the he got what he needed, but it was just so casual and calm and connected, and I dig it. So that's a thumbs up for me.
I'll do that more often.
All right, cool. I want to ask a question. It came up a moment ago. I'll preface this by saying it's a bit of a provocative question. I've asked it before, and I'm just curious what you say to it. Is because we're talking about the folks on the inside being human beings and being open to the work and all this, and then I mentioned I know they've committed crimes and they have punishment and all this stuff. I think a pretty typical attitude we have in America, at least, is if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. You deserve it. You have this debt to society, blah, 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 all this nonsense, all these heartless, mindless things that we say about people in prison. And there are people who may even be listening and will say this is a waste of time. Why do you, especially with like lifers, like why spend your time? Why do you care? Somebody who's not even going to get out, why waste your time on someone who will never even be back in society again?
Yeah. I mean, it's so for me, the work isn't about, I think an output or an impact is in society can benefit. And I start more with the individual, right? So if I'm a lifer, if I'm imprisoned in another way, yes, I'm in prison here, and I want to grow and I want to understand who I am, and I want to forgive myself, not for the crime, but maybe for things in my life. Knowing who one is authentically is a gift, and seeing the men today who could be lifers, some of them, but to break down in tears and say, I'm seeing who I am. I'm understanding who I am. I'm seeing things happen to me that shouldn't have happened to me. To be part of that, where someone can find a sense of peace and continued growth, right? Because society is already blaming me enough. And maybe I will get out, maybe I won't. And even today, folks, they contact their families, their kids. So there's a contagious effect, I believe, of the work, that I see myself and now others see me differently. And maybe even though I can't get out of here, the connection I have on a telephone with my son or my daughter or my wife has shifted and changed. Or the way I decide to act with a correctional officer because I'm going to take a pause is going to have a different relationship here for me while I'm here. And so for me, it's affording an agency, a connection to who they are and others, and a way to not be stuck in blaming and punishing themselves more than already. So that's why I would say the work is the work. And it's, yeah, I mean, what other place? I was thinking, I came home last night and my laptop's filled with everyone who needs to change their schedule. And I'm thinking, everybody needs a new appointment. I'm going, wow, this is interesting. Going into prison, I don't have to worry about appointments, And it was like this weird sensation of a captive audience, which I'm even using the word captive. I feel like, whoa.
It works.
Yeah. And they want to be there because they are signing up.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like saying, if I want to improve my quality of life, regardless of where I am, why can't I have that opportunity?
Mm. And at least one of those examples was a real occurrence this week, where somebody at that moment of pause, that interacting with a CO, the details don't matter, but it's the pause and considering a few things before acting is a big deal.
Well, and the other one you mentioned, this lovely older gentleman, I think he's in his 70s, works with type 7. And Stella introduced type 9 today. And he just was overcome with emotion by the end and said, this is the second time in the course, but just to see him say, when I'm on the phone with my type 9 son, I don't roll him over anymore. He needs a little bit of time. He needs a little bit of space. And I'm not going to roll him over anymore. And just as he's tearing up, sharing this newfound way to be with his son, it's like, oh, that is changing his relationship with his son, which I guarantee his son's relationship with his own children is shifting, like just what it does. So yes, he's still in prison, but it is affecting the world outside, right? It's just, it's amazing.
It's almost like we're connected. It's almost like we're like all part of this one being.
Yeah.
Yeah. The law of one.
Yeah.
They should put a circle around the Enneagram.
They should. I'm drawing a blank on a joke to make it funny, but whatever.
Sorry.
They really should start with that. Anything coming to mind that you want to share or ask or talk about or mention or whatever other verbs there are out there? I'm running out.
Mean, there's there are so many things I could say, but I think this moment for EPP, for the three of us, it just feels, I say I don't have these moments often, but I have them more and more in my life. This is a moment where I know I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm right who I'm supposed to be with in this moment. And that is, that's so special. And I just want to say, while we were in custody past 2 days, we had another apprentice finishing up today. Jan and Christy in San Mateo graduated a course today. Dana and Oshawa are headed to Central California Women's Facility to graduate a group this weekend. And just, there were different times I just felt all of that. And how many guides we have doing different things, but just there are so many of us doing this together. And it's, I just feel it. I'm just sitting in a whole bunch of gratitude, and it never, it never stops feeling like magic. Yeah.
I agree. Feels good. God, it's a lot of stuff going on this week. Yeah. Like I knew all that, but I didn't piece it all together. And we probably have other programs currently operating that aren't at completion.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of shit going on.
A lot. Oh, and on Thursday, our very first course in Canada with 2 Canadian guides graduated. Right?
Nice.
Pine Grove. Like that's, yeah.
Cool. This is what an hour feels like.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to ask, we're almost done. I'm not just going to hit the stop button just yet. Are there any things you'd like to add, or really, are there any questions that you want to answer that I didn't ask, or any other thoughts from this day 1 and day 2 experience?
I feel that I just want to maybe share that when we were preparing for this, we talked about that we were going to dance together on a dance floor, and that there was a way for us as co-guides and ambassador and the participants to flow with the rhythm of what was presenting. And these 2 days, and we talked about the chaos. I think for me, and I feel and I sense all 3, that as the moments arise, the teaching happens in life. And so much of the guiding and the teaching and the learning is happening in the room or the events around us. And so being so present to that and the reality for me was the gift to be able to, and that I don't know that I could have done in any other way than being here in person and with the 2 of you, and trusting that regardless of the music, we were going to find our rhythm.
Gloria Stefan just popped in my head. Is that how you say her name? Did I get the right artist? Okay, I nailed it. Cool. That was great. I hate to laugh after that because it was beautiful, but talking about boundaries and the dance floor really being what are the boundaries, and then we can dance anywhere inside. I've been using that analogy so many times in the last couple of weeks. And we're coming back. We're another less than 2 weeks. We'll be here for day 3 and day 4. Maybe we'll sit down and do a second part.
Ooh.
How's that sound?
I'm game.
How was this for you, being on a podcast? I don't know if you've been on podcasts before or
not podcast this long.
Yeah, this is like half of how long they usually are. Yeah. So a part 2 will actually make sense if you're down.
No, but I've been with you, but on snippets, right? Small parts. Mm-hmm. So this is the first that's really focused.
Cool.
And it's delightful.
I love it. I'm glad you sat down with us. I didn't know if we would have time. That's why I didn't ask you earlier than yesterday. I think is when I mentioned it to you. So I appreciate the hell out of you for sitting down and chatting, and also for, just being a badass. Like I was really excited to go in, and I shared a little bit of this earlier. I was also nervous that I was expecting that I was psyching myself out. That I was, I don't have the words to actually say it, but I fully believe that you were going to be awesome. And I was also scared to be wrong about that.
And I was scared that I wasn't going to meet the expectations. So I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, Clay thinks I'm going to be really good.
Yeah.
And then I said, let it go. Let it go.
And I try really hard to, if I see things and I believe things, I don't mind sharing them. But when they're, I have to really, I watch out for how and where I say things, because there's a lot at risk, I think, for me at least. And I don't want it to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. And there's a lot of things. And I think at least for the first 2 days, it was great.
Yeah. And can I maybe give you some feedback? Because
I have 34 hours left on my recorder. So
I might need a little more if I get on the Clay feedback.
No, so the one thing, like even when we're teasing here, you're saying expect too much. I'm saying, oh my God, expect too much. There was something though also, Clay, it wasn't so much I thought about Stella, but about the philosophy of really thinking about our participants as really being the people that matter when we prepare for apprenticeship, when we prepare for guides, when we train GTP, that sometimes we put so much focus on our practice of content. And so really, I'm teasing you saying the bar is high, but I think what we really talked about and you agreed was, it really is about focusing on why are we there, not our performance all the time. And sometimes we can get lost in that. So that's what I would say. And I felt from you. I don't know if you'd agree.
100%. Yeah. That's a big, why we're there, like it's like I said, it's what doesn't matter. And if you're not connected with the folks, or if you don't know why you're there, to use that phrase, that is step one. And there's a lot of steps after that. Like there's a lot of important steps after that. So I'm not going to make it sound like it's not just show up with your ID, right? To use that metaphor.
Yeah.
It's not just show up, but that is definitely step one.
It is. And the other thing too, that I'll just end on this is sitting down at the end of every day with you and Laura to cool? Actually get
We're so cool. Clay, we are so cool.
Oh gosh. Listen to these two. You can understand what my week has been like.
Your 2 days that feels like a week.
I know, when I thought about the food sale, it was like a week ago. But to sit down and actually get feedback and be asked, what do you think went well? What do you think you would do differently? And that to me is invaluable, because really, even tonight are you too tired for it? It's like, no, I really want to, because I'm learning and co-guiding. I don't see myself all the time. I mean, I'm present, but to have someone else share with love and with care and with concern, not just for me, but for the container, to balance all of that, I think is a gift that I think will always be part of what I would value in that. So I really want to thank the two of you, because I've gotten that at the end of each night, no matter how tired. Yeah. And it's been really, really supportive.
Got some good lasagna too. And what was yesterday? Oh, Chili's.
How'd you forget that?
I don't know. It's probably because I'm ashamed to admit it publicly, but I love Chili's a lot. Appreciate you being here and being willing to just show up like you did. And it was actually quite admirable watching you interact with folks and pushing back in certain areas and being like in an appropriate and playful sometimes way, but also like that is, I see folks take a while to get comfortable with that. And there's a lot of things that I saw in these first 2 days with you that are very encouraging, and I have a lot of hope for the future with you, with EPP. And I'm grateful. You were very easy to be in class with. We shared an Airbnb. I felt comfortable here from the minute I walked in the door and the lights were on, and I had a bottle of water and peanut butter and jelly and all the other things that matter in life. But I really have enjoyed. I've enjoyed these couple of days. I'm looking forward to coming back in a couple of weeks, and I don't know. Maybe we'll chat again. Maybe this is the end of it. Who knows? We'll see. But above all else, I just want to make sure that you hear my appreciation, and I'm quite excited to see where it goes from here. And I think you killed it this week. It was great. And before I go to you for the last word, Laura, anything you would add?
Dad. I don't think there's much to add. You did a great job. It's been a joy to be on the dance floor with you and Clay and figure it out together and dance together. It's been a real treat. And the folks we were with all week, 2 days, I mean. Oh my gosh. That's ridiculous. The folks we were with danced with us, and that doesn't happen without a whole lot of the work we're doing solo and the work we're doing collectively. So just really appreciating you, and so excited for what's to come.
And with that, I'll say the floor is yours. Anything you'd like to close with? No prompt, no question. As much time as you need, or as short as you'd like.
I just continue to have this image of emerging, evolving in presence, and learning together. And I'm smiling as I think about even when I messed up a few things of beach balls and volleyballs, as the participants danced with me, they said, which ball are you throwing around in your metaphor? And it was delightful. Or when I wasn't able to, I sort of overcomplicated pairing off or repeating questions. And then I paused and said, I'm really screwing this up. Let me try again. One participant looked at me and said, I told you I could meet this person. You were trying. So it was just, I think the dancing with one another is also the gentle pushback and recognition of equality. To me, that was really extraordinary, that we were on equal terms.
EPP is on a mission to understand why we do what we do, using the Enneagram to inspire transformation on both sides of the bars through self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-compassion. For more information about EPP, please visit EnneagramPrisonProject.org. We appreciate your time and attention today. Please stay tuned for future episodes of the podcast, which you can expect right here on the first Tuesday of every month as we continue to tell the story of the Enneagram Prison Project.